Good. So, few words about Dorsum and who we are. Dorsum is technology partner for financial institutions. So this means banks, asset management companies, brokerage houses, pension funds. And our products are in the domain of wealth advisory, wealth management, and all post-trade investment operations. We have 30 years of expertise. We are present on 11 European markets. And what you will hear from us today are three different perspectives on T+1. My name is Martina, and I will cover the market situation and upcoming requirements. Then after me, my colleague Jofi, she will talk about operational readiness, about back office challenges. And after us, our colleague Peter will cover technology and integration part. So the aim of today's call is to make a little T+1 a little bit less theoretical and a little bit more practical for you. Good. So, next slide. Okay, so we will start with simple and maybe very often a situation. So imagine a trade which is executed late in the afternoon. The allocation is not final. The SSI is missing or it's outdated. Confirmation arrives by email. And reconciliation only runs at the end of the day. And so you would say today under T+2, this is still manageable. And it is. There is still enough time to investigate next day, to correct the things, to reconcile. But when it comes to T+1, the same situation can easily result in a failed settlement. And that's really what T+1 regulation is about. So the regulation itself does not create new problems. It simply gives us less time to solve the problems we already have. Okay, and that's why so much attention is being placed on automation, on data quality, on machine-readable communication, and all these things. Good. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, so question here is what you will get from this webinar. Today on the webinar, we will not go deep into regulation or framework because you probably already are familiar with that. So what we will do instead, we will focus on three practical questions. So the first question is, where does T+1 create real operational risk? Which processes should be addressed first? And how can you check if you're ready and how ready you are for T+1? So our goal today will be to translate regulation into daily operations. And this means, for example, checking trade data, checking confirmations, settlement instructions, reconciliation, exception handling, and other responsibilities. Okay, so next slide, Judith. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, on 11th October 2027, European Union, UK, and Switzerland will all move to T+1. And the goal is very clear. So the goal is to reduce risk, to increase efficiency, to align with markets such as US and Canada. And here it's important to understand if we knew how it happened in US, European transition will be more complex because here we have 27 jurisdictions, different market practices, different infrastructures, different legal environments also. And all these markets needs to move at the same time. Okay, so on the next slide, we will show you in more details what needs to be in place and by when. So let's see the next slide. Let's see the 2026. Good. When it comes to 2026, most of requirements focus on preparation. And here's the good news, and that's that many of required capabilities already exist today. So you have them. What will be the challenge? is to make sure that the data is complete, the data is accurate, is available maybe on time. And that includes, let's say, settlement details, safekeeping information, trade type indicators. What you will also have to do is to strengthen areas of electronic allocations, automated reconciliation. Can we just mute Judith, some of the participants? Yeah, okay, good. So all this, what I mentioned, is not new for you. It's just that under T+1, these processes need to work faster. Okay, what else on this slide? Okay, there is also one more date to keep in mind, and that is 7 December of 2026. Because 7 December 2026, according to our last information, is the day when same-day processing requirements will start to apply. So this means that by 7 December, you should already be moving from planning, let's say, into implementation. Good. Let's see next slide, because I think it's 2027 there. Good. So if we look at the 2027, by 2027, the focus will shift from preparation to execution. So from October 2027, confirmation and settlement instructions must be processed on the day of the trade. In order to achieve that, we will need a higher level of automation. And that applies to, of course, instruction generation, validation, hold and release management, partial settlement support, netting support, and some other stuffs. And none of these capabilities are like revolution. They're not revolution, but together, if we improve them, we can really improve efficiency of the whole settlement process. Good. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So here it's important to remember that T+1 is not only compliance exercise. And in the end of the day, the question is very simple, like, can we settle the trades on time? And if not, the consequences can be different, like additional workload, liquidity pressure, client dissatisfaction, reputational risk, loss of business maybe. So this is why operational readiness really, really matters. Good. I will now, for the next part, pass the word to my colleague, Zsófi. She will tell you more about operational readiness, potential challenges. So Zsófi, feel free to take over.
Thank you very much, Martina, and welcome everyone. So I would like to talk a bit about why T+1 is different. T+1 doesn't simply mean that one less day is available. The key point is that the time window for identifying, correcting, and rechecking errors becomes significantly shorter. In a T+2 operational model, many organizations have become used to the fact that certain trade data issues, confirmations, allocations, reference data corrections, or reconciliation breaks can still be handled on the day after the trade. If an SSI is missing, if a confirmation arrives late, if processing a file requires manual intervention, or if a discrepancy only appears in the end of the reconciliation, there is still often some room for maneuver today. Under T+1, this room for maneuver becomes much smaller. What used to be an operational inconvenience may, in a shorter circle time, cause settlement delay, failed settlement, additional work, and liquidity issues. Based on CSDR late settlement reports, late settlements may affect as much as 2 to 5% of trades on a monthly basis. And this already represents a significant additional workload under T+2. If we move to T+1 with the same data quality, SSI handling, level of manual work, and communication practices, this risk may remain at a permanently higher level. Let's ask ourselves, maybe Judith, you could switch the slide. Let's ask ourselves, if a trade is created after 4:30 p.m. today, can the organization still produce and send a complete, validated settlement instruction on T-Day? The actual pressure doesn't appear at a single point. It affects the full trade to settlement process. The creation of trade data, allocation, confirmation, the creation and sending of settlement instructions, status monitoring, reconciliation, and exception handling. Preparation should therefore not start from individual functions. It worth walking through the full process, where the trade data is created, when it becomes final, when the allocation takes place, when the confirmation is received or sent, when the settlement instruction is prepared, and when it is sent, which statuses are received back, and where and how it becomes visible if something doesn't match. Next slide, please. From a back office perspective, one of the first questions is when all the settlement-related data is available. Not in general and not in theory, but in the daily operation. Is it available on T-Day, before the relevant cutoff, or at the end of the day, or only the next morning after manual checks or partner feedbacks? Processes are particularly risky where the trade does enter the system, but the final data required for settlement is only completed later. This can happen, for example, when allocation is late, approval is manual, or data has to pass through several systems. The risk is even higher if the back office only gets the full picture later, which trade needs to be prepared and where it has to settle. Next slide, please. The same applies to batch-based operation. Batch-based processing in itself is not a problem, but under T+1 it matters greatly when the process runs. What happens in an event of error and whether immediate intervention is possible, or even whether there is any possibility to intervene on the same day after the process has run. If an error in a scheduled task sequence only becomes visible in the evening, or if the settlement instruction is generated only after the end of the closing process, there is no longer enough time for correction. A useful self-check is this. Do we have any critical process step where an error is only visible at the end of the day, or even worse, only the next morning? Next slide, please. From a back office perspective, preparing for T+1 is primarily around reviewing today's processes in terms of time, data quality, responsibility, and control. One of the most important areas is data quality. Under T+1, the reference data required for settlement is not a background administrative matter, but a critical control point. This includes, among other things, client and account identifiers, counterparty data, SSIs, instrument, market, and CSD data, sub-custodian information, settlement currencies, or account relationships. The question is not only whether these data elements exist somewhere in the system. It is at least as important to know who is responsible for them, who maintains them, and how often they are checked. Are there defaulting and error handling rules? Or what happens if the incoming trade data doesn't clearly identify the client, the account, or the settlement route? In many cases, the back office still handle these gaps today, but through manual follow-ups, phone or email clarifications, questions back to the partner, and not necessarily on T-Day. But in a T+1 regime, this solution only works to a limited extent, because there is simply not enough time to resolve every error individually and manually. Next slide, please. For this reason, the role of early and timely confirmation and matching becomes more important. Confirmation is not merely an administrative step. It is an opportunity to identify differences between the trade data in time. The key questions are when the confirmation arrives, what data content it includes, whether it can be processed quickly, and if there is a discrepancy, who sees it, who corrects it, and by what deadline, and with what escalation route. The same applies to the settlement instruction. It is worth reviewing the full life cycle of the instruction, who creates it, from which data, when it is completed, when it is sent, which statuses are received back, and how amendments, cancellations, or closures are handled. Next slide, please. Status visibility is particularly important. Under T+1, it is not enough to be able to say afterwards what happened. The operating model must support intraday visibility of which trades are in good order, which are waiting for a partner, which are missing data, and which have entered a risky status. Next slide, please. Partial settlement, hold and release, and collateral management expected for the 2027 go live are also not merely technological functions. They are operational decision points. It must be clear what happens in an account management, client-side fulfillment, reporting and reconciliation if a trade settles only partially. If a hold or release decision is required, it must be clear who makes the decision, based on which rules, by what deadline, and how this information is fed back to the process. Next slide, please. Reconciliation and exception handling are among the best tests of how ready an organization is for T+1. If discrepancies are only identified the next day, they are identified too late. It is worth reviewing which reconciliation run today, when they run, how frequently they run, with what data content, who handles the discrepancies, whether there is a prioritization, whether there is an SLA, and when escalation takes place. A useful self-check is this. If a trade data discrepancy appears today, do we see it early enough on T-Day? Do we also know who should fix it, by when, and whether the correction has already started? And now I would like to hand the floor to Peter to talk about the technological background of these capabilities. Thank you.
Let me summarize the IT aspects of the topic just in a nutshell, just in 3 slides. In general, IT should support business and operating needs through 2 key domains, local systems and communication. And both areas should focus on simple, transparent processes and faster processing. Now, even more than ever, as a settlement cycle is shortened. Talking about the local system, the legacy system, now it's not our objective to review them fully because their selection, operation, architecture depends on business volumes, unique needs, unique selection. So it's your choice. The primary objective regarding these systems is that the functionality of the system should support the highest possible level of automation, usually with workflow-based state-through processing, operation, clear statuses, and escalation possibilities, and of course, monitoring for audit. But as I said, these challenges are more on your side. For now, our objective is to highlight the communication dimension because it's more important for us. Usually, this is the second that we thought. Regarding the communication, summarized on the next slide, it is shown that communication between market participants should also fulfill the mentioned requirements to be secure, to be automated, and to be auditable. To achieve this, communication must be standardized either bilaterally or globally between the market participants. When selecting the communication channel, these 3 aspects should be reviewed always. So first, the security. We should investigate if it provides appropriate authentication encryption, access management, and permissions. Second, if we're talking about automation, automation is about to avoid manual work. The current widely accepted solution of sending PDFs via emails will not be appropriate. It should be transformed to a more machine processable solution. And third, auditable and monitoring, which includes real-time monitoring and also to keep the logs for later, to be able to provide proof what happened. As processes are automated, these logs are crucial to provide clarity on the background processing. What are the options? Secure and industry-relevant channels may include, for example, SWIFT via MT and MX messages, REST APIs, and SFTP connections for bilateral connections. SWIFT is a well-known possibility, you know it well, but on the next slide, if the situation is that SWIFT is not available, we can recommend REST APIs and SFTPs. The main objective now is to provide a safe, fast, and more traceable communication, which can be guaranteed with both solutions. If we investigate REST API, using token-based access management like Open Authentication or OpenID Connect, it is a standard in a modern banking environment, hardened with certifications, TLS, mutual TLS, and of course extended with additional IT protections like rate limiting, IP restriction. It can be a very secure communication. However, if the systems are not available to provide this kind of real-time communication, SFTP can also be an accepted option to move larger volumes of data. It also can be hardened with strong encryption, certification-based authentication, IP-based restrictions, and integrity checking. But I promised you just 3 slides, and we are end of the 3 slides. And I have to say that these are just bits and pieces. These are technical possibilities. This can be used to build a custom solution, custom communication channel, which is customized for you, but the choice is yours. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Peter gave you only 3 slides, but together with Zsófi, I think you have a lot of information now, and you must be wondering where should we start. So our recommendation here is very simple. So it's start with the readiness assessment. So you don't need to solve everything immediately. The first and the most important step is to understand where you have the biggest risks. So, for example, where are the bottlenecks? Where are manual processes? Where could T+1 create pressure for your organization? So once you have that picture, it will become much easier to prioritize whatever you need to do. Good. So let's see what should be reviewed or assessed first. Judith, can you please give us the next slide, because there is where it is. Good. Okay. So what should be assessed first? A readiness assessment should cover several key areas. It should cover, for example, your systems, your markets and instruments, your client types, transaction volumes, communication channel reference data, settlement fail reports, exception reports. It's also very important to review cutoff times, responsibilities, escalation procedures, because in many organizations, these are exactly the areas where there are some hidden risks. Okay. We can move to the next slide. Good. So once you collected all this information from the previous slide, you can build a T+1 risk map. Here on the slide, there is only just a simple example. You will have your own, or we can help you. And this map will help you to understand where do you need to improve. For example, maybe it's data quality, maybe it's automation part, maybe some responsibilities are unclear. Maybe some processes take too long. So you should ask yourself, do you have a clear view of the required actions of all the systems in the landscape which are affected, of the responsibilities, the deadlines, and where you are the weakest, that's the best place to start. Good. Next slide. Thank you, Judith. Okay. So this is how, just the basic information, how Dorsum can help you if you need any help. So we can help you with readiness workshops. We can support your process reviews, your system reviews. We can also help with identification of data gaps, communication gaps. And the objective here is not to implement same solution for every organization. So here it's not that one size fits all. It doesn't, because every company is different. We have different volume. You have different volumes, different systems, different priorities. So the goal will be to identify the right approach for your operating model and for your risk profile. Okay. Good. We can move to the next one. Okay, so this slide shows how can Dorsum support your processes. So we used to go with a step-by-step approach, not all at once, and where we usually start is trade data, so validating mandatory fields, making sure data flows automatically. Then we cover allocation and confirmation, meaning SSI handling, trade reconciliation, early visibility of breaks. Then we do instruction generation, and finally status tracking, exception handling, so that issues are visible and that you can fix them, of course, on time. So you see that T+1 readiness is kind of a flow. We can support you across any part of the process or of the full process based on your requirements, of course. Good. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is just another angle, another view of the situation with 4 areas of attention. So first area is governance. So we have to have governance with clear ownership, with clear priorities, with realistic implementation plan and milestones. Then the second area is collaboration with ecosystem partners, meaning custodians, CSDs, settlement providers, FX partners. Okay. The third one is stronger T-Day discipline. And when it comes to stronger discipline, we are speaking of allocations, confirmation, again, SSI, exception handling, etc. And the last part, but not the least important, let's say, is testing. And testing on time, I would say, because testing phase should finally validate your readiness and solve remaining issues before production, of course. I think we covered everything on this slide. We can move to the next one. Good. So this one is one of the last slide, and this is a practical checklist for you. So if we had to summarize today's discussion in simple checklist, it would be exactly this one. So start with gap analysis, create implementation roadmap, prioritize T0 processes, engage your ecosystem partners early, and start testing as soon as possible. And here is one more message, which is, I would say, quite important, is that this year, 2026, is not only planning year, so it should be also execution year. And companies that make progress during 2026 will be in much stronger position when overall industry testing begins. So the message from us to you is the sooner you start, the better for you. Okay. Good. To the next one. Okay. So this is just short one, and it's the final message from us that T+1 is not only regulatory change, it's an operational transformation. It has very simple goal, and this is that trades must be settled on time. And in order to achieve that, you will need some visibility into delays, into data issues, into exceptions. So once you see where you have the problems, if you have the problems, it might then becomes much easier to fix those problems. And the goal, of course, I mean, it is the goal, but it's not the only goal to tick the regulatory box. It's rather to settle trades reliably, to serve your clients well, to keep the market running smoothly, obviously. Yeah. Good. And we have come, I think, to the last slide. Judith, if you can give us the last one. Okay, so we have come to the end. Thank you for your attention. I really hope, and we all hope, that today's session has given you some useful ideas for your T+1 journey. We wish you all the best on that journey.